Let's go Ravens! Something interesting is happening behind the scenes involving a former Baltimore Ravens defensive player, and the move that just occurred throughout the league may say much more about the respect this player earned during his short time in Baltimore than many fans realize. The details of this deal, the team involved, and the moment that helped define his trajectory with the Ravens may surprise you, and, upon hearing the full story, an intriguing question arises about what this could mean if the Ravens cross paths with this team again on the road to the Super Bowl. But before we get into the details, like this post if you truly believe the Ravens are building something special for the future, and leave a comment below showing your optimism about the team. Write something like, "Go Ravens! The best is yet to come." I want to see how confident Ravens fans are feeling about the upcoming seasons. For Ravens fans, Alohi Gilman's time in Baltimore may not have been extremely long, but it was definitely meaningful during a moment when the defense was trying to stabilize. He arrived during the middle of the season through a trade involving the Ravens and the Chargers. At the time, Baltimore's front office was looking at the situation strategically. Instead of potentially losing a player in free agency and only receiving a compensatory pick the following year, the Ravens decided to make a move immediately and bring in help for a defense that needed support. When Gilman arrived, the Ravens were dealing with a very real problem at the safety position. Darius Washington had suffered a torn Achilles earlier in the offseason, leaving a hole that hadn't been properly addressed. The defense was struggling with coverage gaps and giving up open space, and it became clear that reinforcements were necessary. Gilman stepped into that environment and immediately took on the role of a third safety. That role may not always get the headlines, but in Baltimore's defensive system it's extremely important. With Kyle Hamilton already playing a major role and rookie Malachi Stark entering the league and learning the complexities of the Ravens' defense, Gilman's presence helped reduce some of the pressure on the young players. Playing safety as a rookie in a complex defensive scheme is never easy, and having a veteran presence who could rotate into coverage packages made a real difference. During that stretch, the Ravens' defense showed signs of improvement. Yes, some of those games came against weaker quarterbacks, but the impact was still noticeable. Gilman helped bring balance to the secondary and allowed the coaching staff to move pieces around more confidently. And there was one moment in particular that many Ravens fans still remember. It came in a game against the Bengals in Cincinnati. The Ravens defense was dominating that night, holding Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense scoreless deep into the game. At one point, Burrow dropped back to pass near the red zone. Edge rusher Kelvin Van Noy initially rushed but then dropped back into coverage, surprising Burrow. The quarterback released the pass without noticing the shift, and Van Noy intercepted it. But what happened next turned the play into one of the most exciting defensive moments of the Ravens season. Instead of trying to run it back himself with defenders closing in, Van Noy quickly made a split-second decision. Realizing he didn't have much chance of reaching the end zone, he pitched the ball to Alohi Gilman. With open field ahead of him, Gilman took off and finished the play, running it all the way back for a touchdown. It became one of the most memorable defensive highlights of the year. Moments like that are part of why Gilman's value around the league continued to rise. And now the Kansas City Chiefs clearly believe in that value. When many people first heard the Chiefs were interested, the expectation was that Gilman might receive a one-year deal. Instead, Kansas City committed 3 years and nearly $25 million. Of course, NFL contracts can be structured in many ways. Sometimes teams include exit options after the first or second season, depending on guarantees and bonuses. But regardless of the exact structure, the fact that the Chiefs offered a 3-year deal shows they see Gilman as a meaningful piece of their defense moving forward. For Ravens fans, there's still respect for what he contributed during his time in Baltimore. But now things change a little. Once a player joins another contender, especially a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, he becomes part of the competition standing between Baltimore and its ultimate goal. And that goal hasn't changed. The Ravens want to fight their way back to the Super Bowl in the coming seasons. If that journey includes crossing paths with the Chiefs and Alohi Gilman along the way, then it will be one of those emotional matchups where former teammates meet again on opposite sides of the field. And when you look at the bigger picture, Ravens fans, this situation really highlights how important those midseason moves can be. Sometimes a player arrives quietly, fills a role that the team desperately needs, and then moves on. But during that short window, the impact can be real. That was the case with Alohi Gilman in Baltimore. When he stepped into the defense, the Ravens were searching for stability in the secondary. The system demands a lot from safeties. They need to rotate into coverage, support the corners, read the quarterback quickly, and react to plays developing across the entire field. That's why having someone capable of filling that third safety role mattered so much. It allowed Kyle Hamilton to continue being aggressive in different alignments while rookie Malachi Stark could focus on learning the system step by step. And even though the season had its ups and downs, those adjustments mattered. The Ravens' defense did find moments where it looked far more organized than earlier in the year. Gilman's presence gave the coaching staff flexibility, and flexibility in a defense like Baltimore's is everything. The play in Cincinnati that we talked about earlier perfectly captures the kind of awareness that can turn an ordinary defensive stop into a game-changing moment. Calvin Van Noy's interception was already big, but the quick decision to pitch the ball to Gilman showed the awareness and teamwork within the defense. Gilman finishing that play with a touchdown turned it into one of the most exciting defensive highlights of the season. Those kinds of moments are what teams across the league remember when evaluating players. They see someone who understands the game, reacts quickly, and can take advantage of opportunities. And clearly, the Kansas City Chiefs saw enough to offer him a multi-year commitment. Now, from the Ravens' perspective, this is also part of the reality of the NFL. Players move, contracts change, teams adjust their rosters every year in order to stay competitive. The Ravens made the decision earlier to move him in a trade situation that made sense at the time, and now the league continues to evolve as players land in new places. But here's where it gets interesting for Baltimore fans. The Chiefs are one of the teams that always stands in the way when it comes to the AFC race. Every season, if you're talking about the path to the Super Bowl, Kansas City is going to be part of that conversation. That means there is a very real possibility that somewhere down the road, the Ravens defense, or even the Ravens offense, could be lining up across the field from Alohi Gilman. And if that happens, you already know the storylines will be everywhere. Former Raven now wearing Chiefs red, meeting his old team in a high-stakes matchup. That's the kind of moment that makes NFL seasons unforgettable. But one thing Ravens fans understand better than anyone is that this franchise keeps moving forward. Every offseason brings new adjustments, new players stepping into bigger roles, and new opportunities for the defense to evolve. The Ravens have always been known for building strong defensive units, and that identity isn't changing anytime soon. So while Gilman's new contract is a great achievement for him personally, the Ravens organization continues focusing on the bigger goal, building a roster capable of making a deep playoff run and competing for the Super Bowl. And who knows, maybe somewhere down the road, during a critical AFC showdown, we'll see the Ravens facing the Chiefs with a trip to the biggest game in football on the line. If Alohi Gilman happens to be standing on the other sideline when that moment comes, it will definitely add another layer of intensity to the matchup. And when you take a step back and look at the entire situation, Ravens fans, it really shows how quickly things can change in the NFL. A player can arrive in the middle of a season, help stabilize a unit that needed support, deliver a few key moments, and before you know it, he's earned the attention of another contender willing to invest in his future. That's exactly what happened here. During his time with the Ravens, Alohi Gilman stepped into a defense that was searching for answers in the secondary. The team needed depth, communication, and someone capable of handling responsibilities in multiple defensive looks. Even though his stay wasn't long, he contributed in a way that helped the defense settle during an important stretch of the season. And Ravens fans remember those moments, especially the defensive play in Cincinnati that turned into one of the most exciting highlights of the year. Those are the types of plays that stay in people's minds across the league. Coaches notice them, front offices notice them, and when free agency or contract negotiations come around, those moments can help shape how teams evaluate a player's value. Now the Kansas City Chiefs have made their move, offering him a 3-year deal and giving him an opportunity to continue building his career on another contender. That alone tells you something important. The work he put in on the field didn't go unnoticed. But for the Ravens, the mission remains the same. This franchise has always been about building a defense that plays fast, communicates well, and creates big moments when the game is on the line. Every offseason brings changes, but the identity of the team stays consistent. New players step into roles, young talent develops, and the organization keeps pushing forward toward the ultimate goal. And that goal is clear, competing for the Super Bowl. So while this story is a great reminder of how a former Raven found a new opportunity elsewhere, it's also a reminder that the Ravens are still focused on strengthening their roster and preparing for the battles ahead in the AFC. Because every season in this conference is intense, and every contender knows that Baltimore will always be a team capable of making a deep run. Now I want to hear from you, Ravens fans. Do you think the Ravens defense is on the right path moving forward? And how optimistic are you about this team's chances of fighting its way back to the Super Bowl in the coming seasons? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it.